right. Good morning. Good afternoon, everybody in the American Fire Service. Welcome to the December edition of the Bill Guston Engine Company Operations Humpday Hangout, Fire Engineering Magazine and website. Hope everyone's doing good. Hope everyone's getting ready for the holidays. Remind everybody that this is kitchen fires, triple in frequency over the holidays. So be prepared. Be prepared for some kitchen fires, some turkey fires, some oven fires, all that fun stuff. A lot of bad decisions happening in the kitchen, November, December. A lot of people cooking dinner who have no business being in the kitchen cooking dinner, all that. So interesting story. I'm sitting in my office one day and a firefighter comes up to me named Stuart Downing. I'm going to call him out by name. And he says, "Good podcast, Cap. But you know what I'd like to hear? I'd like to hear some talk about stretching hose, about extending hose lines, estimating hose stretches, stuff like that." And I thought, hey, that's absolutely perfect. So, Stu, this is for you, brother, station 24 on Appletoon. And also I'd like to say, hey, if anyone out there listening to us, if you ever want to hear some content or have any recommendations or suggestions, you can hit any one of us up. Every single person's on Facebook. We're really accessible, not hard to find anybody. No one's in the witness protection program. So anything you want to hear, let us know. Hit us up. Anything engine company operations related. You've got some pretty talented people on this podcast and me. So anything you guys want to hear. So starting with the introductions, myself, Clark Lampin, Clark County Fire Department, Las Vegas. Next, I'd like to introduce our birthday boy, Captain Mike Dugan, FDNY ladder 123. Happy birthday, Captain Dugan. How many laps around the sun?
70.
70 laps around the sun. You've got some frequent flyer miles on that ass, don't you?
Oh, yes, I do.
All right. Perfect. Perfect. All right. Not sure allowed to say that on the podcast, but we'll find out after this. How about what's going on in Chicago this week, Jimmy Davis?
Hi, guys. Bundle up, man. Bundle up. The polar vortex is coming. 30 wind chills, about 30 below zero, high of single digits. Only for a couple days, man. But you know what? That's a whole nother topic of discussion, man. Cold weather firefight, sub-zero, where everything just turns ice. That, a matter of fact, you turn ice too, man. Yeah. I'd rather switch places, Daryl, where you're at right now at Scottsdale. I believe in that visiting firemen or that exchange program. So please, if you need a fireman to come down for a couple months during the winter,
cold. See, it's so cold.
Rather have a pro, it's frozen.
Not Toronto. Toronto's just as cold too, man. So I'm gonna have to exclude that. Brooksy, I'd love to come down, but it's a little bit too cold, man. We're in the same boat.
But the good news is we have no mosquitoes right now, so it's
perfect.
A great time.
Yeah,
this month,
great news.
If you ever need any, if we do end up doing a podcast on cold weather firefighting, Daryl Liggins and I will be able to contribute to that. Because we fight fire and like what are you today, Daryl? What'd you say?
Oh, I'm in the witness protection program. You could tell by the background, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm saying Scottsdale, but I could be anywhere. It's like 64 degrees. So
64.
Really
see, we do. Yeah, I'm like 68 degrees, Jimmy. We do cold weather firefighting out here too. Don't give me that.
I feel your pain, brothers. I feel your pain.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yep. And shout out to my friends at the Pacific. Shout out to my friends at the Pacific Northwest Fire Conference for giving me this hat because they know how much we suffer in the cold in California. So that was a fun one. Yeah. So you guys have really been burning down the town too, Jimmy.
It's interesting when you get some of the coldest days and in that first snowstorm of those very cold days, man. And it's historically too. And Captain Mike, you know that you go on a roll of fires, man, and it just keeps coming. And then the anticipation again when we're going into that sub-zero or those wind chills, man, it's just like clockwork, man. You're going to fires, and sometimes the hottest day of the year too. That's another one. Expect a fire.
Yeah, and when you're hungover, Jimmy, when you got a crushing hangover, guaranteed to get a fire that day, don't you?
Captain Gustin, words of Captain Gustin. We miss you, brother.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's what he would say.
Yeah. He also had some comments about loose stools and stuff like that, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about engine company. Dan Shaw, Chief Dan Shaw.
Yeah,
Dan Shaw, how are you today, brother?
good, man. Good. Nice and warm in my house.
Oh yeah, perfect. You back in Virginia right now?
No. I live in Baltimore. I only worked in Virginia.
All right, good. Baltimore, perfect.
It's more than better here.
How those Ravens do against the Steelers? Remind me again.
I don't know. I don't watch the football anymore.
All right,
I've given up, just like my team has.
Yeah, perfect.
Oh, please, don't say a word.
Yeah,
I'm a
I
Jets fan.
can't say
I'm a
you're not a
Jets fan.
Giants fan.
No,
Oh,
I'm a
Jets fan.
Jets
Oh
fan.
God.
Yeah,
Oh,
I met Joe Namath when I was 12 years old, and he treated me like a gentleman. So I'll always be a Jets fan.
that's
But
tough.
it's a lifelong curse. It's
Yeah.
a lifelong
Yeah.
curse.
It's tough.
So I'm not a Raiders fan, but I heard someone say, hey, all you fair weather fans out there, if you're not a fan when we're 2-14, I don't want you next season to jump on the bandwagon when we're 3-13. All right. So
Progress, man.
Hey,
1% every day.
Since we're talking about hose stretches and firefighting engine ops, we would like to thank our sponsors look at what I have here. I have nothing in the background, but I still have hose.
Right.
Combat
Daryl is
ready.
such
So
a nerd. He is such a hose nerd that he carries hose with him. He's retired and he still carries hose with him all the time.
It fits in the overhead bin, Clark. What else are you supposed to do? You never know. Some people carry a firearm, but a lot of people pass away.
You don't wear like a shawl when you're on a plane or anything?
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, it's not
Combat
as bad
ready.
as Captain Bill Gustin when he slept with the hose.
Yeah. We should find that picture and have that the title slide of our presentation.
So thank you for our sponsor for
this would not be possible without the generosity of Key Fire Hose and their dedication to the American Fire Service. We are always grateful for them. So moving forward, I'm going to I think we're going to kick it off with Captain, sometimes Chief Brent Brooks. We're going to talk about extending the line, Brent, Captain Brooks.
Yeah, we could. I got two that I want to talk about, and one is called leapfrogging, and that's where you're coming up short. You brought in the 2.5, and it's time to add 50 feet, or it's time to change tactics, and it's as simply as spinning off the tip, adding a new tactic, or spinning off the tip and adding a length of hose. What I like about that tactic of working up front and leapfrogging is we actually lose our firefighters along the pinch point. So now we become front heavy. We have more firefighters searching. And if we have to, spell off that first team, well, the crews are already there. So it's kind of a neat way of doing it. And it evolved from high-rise firefighting. When we're doing a floor below stretch or a gravity-assisted stretch on a dirty hallway, we'd stretch. And generally speaking, we'd come up 50 feet short. We'd lose reach of stream. We'd cool the environment. And then we add to the front. And at no time do we have to go back, shut the standpipe system down, leave our firefighters unprotected in the hallway. We're flowing water. We're spinning the tip off. We increase our volume of water. We lose our reach of stream, but we're still protected. We add the increaser, add a length of hose, and then we make our next push of 50 feet. That's the leapfrog method. Well, the leapfrog
So what you're saying, Brooksy, is you're not pulling hose, you're not stretching hose, because when stretching hose, you have to have firefighters man every single pinch point, and you've got all that friction. You're dragging all that friction upstairs, down a carpeted hallway, and it's always a carpeted hallway, right? I believe we set ourselves up for failure when we do high-rise fire training, when we're always where? In a parking garage or the burn tower with a smooth concrete floor, correct? That's where everyone does it, right? Once you try dragging nylon jacketed carpet hose on nylon carpet, it increases the friction loss. The friction increases phenomenally, and it's much, much harder. So what you're saying, Brent, is we don't do that, right? We build the hose line as we go to eliminate all of those problems. True?
It is true. And what we see, when it comes to high-rise relations, you're above you're above where the water was introduced, and now you have if you have return stairwells, you have 4 firefighters on the pinch points, 1 at each door, 1 at the half landing, and then 1 more feeding it. So there's 4 firefighters out of sight of each other, plus the nozzle team, and then you want them to give you 5 feet or take back 5 feet or advance forward, and that's where the communications gets broken down. It's just you're out of sight. When we go into a house fire, I mean, I turn the corner and they can see me motion for more hose. But when it comes to high-rise operations, every single firefighter is in the dark when it comes to return stairs, and that's where we're losing our fight. So we had to try something new, and the tactic of working off the front, or what we call leapfrogging, is a different way of doing it, but it seems to be working. And now those 4 firefighters that traditionally work the pinch points are there to do an aggressive search, stairwells, and because we're limited staffing when it comes to any high-rise operations, now we just gained 4 firefighters to do more tasks. That's the leapfrog method. Now the leapfrog method has advanced into a progressive stretch because on high-rise building we have a thing called a close well, and on a close well stretch we don't have the luxury of stretching up the well, so we have to lay to the outside of a closed well. When we did that, we'd stretch from the truck and we were adding length. We got too much hose in the stairwell and it was really slowing us down. If we look at a horizontal high-rise or a high-rise building on its side, like a Lowe's or a Home Depot or a car dealership, it was the same type of problem. We would stretch, we would go around cars, we'd go around machinery, we'd go along aisles, and we're getting all these firefighters working on the pinch points. And if Kyle could actually pull up that video, I have a video of us. We're doing some research and development in California. We're doing some research development in Edmonton, Canada. And what we said is, just go grab your length, grab it as a hose pack or grab it from the bed. If you grab it from a bed, do a rapid deployment and go find that crew that went interior. So crews are bringing hose packs forward that either started as a hose pack or started from the hose bed and they built it, like the firefighter on the left. And they're going to go find that crew that's interior. And they're just going to continue to add. And what I like about using the 2.5-inch hose line is the video on the right is a 22 length stretch. And it's a very complicated, confusing tower. There's a rooftop there, but it actually continues. And the firefighters were simply able to continue to add to the front. And it actually took us less than 4 minutes to do 22 lengths in this complicated structure. The video on the left was the same thing. The crew stretched for the underground. They come up short. We told them when you go underground, you're going to lose communications. And then every crew that went down below grade had this lifeline that started from the truck. They continued to add to the front, and they were able to get to their target and kind of have water the whole time they're doing it. So it's a leapfrogging, it's a progressive stretch. We call it a progressive stretch because you're continuing to go locate the fire or find the fire in these complex environments. And now we lose all the firefighters on the pinch points as well. So if you look at that view on the right, it's still going. It's a 22 length stretch, but there's no firefighters along that hose line because they all went up front. The only thing you can't forget is the nozzle. And in this case, they have the nozzle. I don't know if we're going to get there.
You know what you're talking about, Brent? Wow. In California for wildland firefighting, the progressive hose lay is pretty much the predominant hose lay. You're basically doing a wildland hose lay. Everybody has a pack of 2 packs of hose on their back, and you just keep going for up to thousands of feet.
And
you're
that's
just
great.
Incorporating this in the high-rise scenario.
There they go. So there's your 22 foot length, and they're flowing 1,003 liters per minute, which is 265 gallons per minute. Great reach of stream because we went up, because we went down, and when we did the hydraulics, they actually set their own gate and gauge at the end there. So we're bringing a gate and gauge forward for a progressive stretch, even though we're not using a standpipe system, because that gate and gauge allows the pump operator, who is also generally out of communications, just send us lots of water. We have a gate engaged downrange. Send it. It's a portable pump panel that we've taken downrange. You're our hydrant. Send us lots of pressure. We're the end user. We'll control our own pressure. We switch tactics. We go to a 500 GPM Bresnan. That's okay. We don't need the pump operator to give us more pressure. We can send it. We can turn it off. We can add, we have that luxury now that we've never had before. Firefighting is changing slightly.
I'd say it's changing more than slightly, Brent Brooks. I think it's courtesy to some you guys, and these guys are doing all this research and stuff. I think it's fantastic. We're in a place now that we've never been. So real quick, Brent, can you tell us 22 lengths hose that came off one engine, or is that multiple companies?
It's multiple companies. They, how we see it now, you get to the back and you're going to pull 4-inch or you're going to pull 2.5 and you shoulder load it. And the next person steps forward and the next person joins this Congo line. And then you get 3 people on it, but you're going to be short. And we wait and we wait and we wait. What the progressive stretch is, you dump the entire bed on the ground. Everyone attacks a coupling. You rapid deployment, put it on your shoulder and head to your target. What I like about that is firefighters come in different shapes, sizes, physical capabilities. Some firefighters into the job, some aren't. But when they show up for progressive stretch, all your aggressive firefighters are going to be obviously faster, leading. The guys that can mask, with gloves on, yada, 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 they're going to be leading the charge. Then you're going to get your slower firefighters catch up. But what I like about this is the good firefighters who are really into the job and aggressive are going to end up on the nozzle on the progressive stretch. They've already laid their hose out first. The other people have caught up to them, and then they're going to take over. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I'm listening to you speak, and I can think of multiple applications. I know you said it came from high-rise training, but mid-rise, large commercial. How about these apartment complexes with, you might have a 300-foot setback through cars, a courtyard, stuff like that. I can absolutely see multiple applications for this type of stretch.
And just on a side note, we actually do this with 4-inch hose, and it was a mistake that happened years and years ago. Is we have 100-foot length hose, and it went to our mechanical division, but the hose testing area was only 60 feet long. So on their own, without contacting operations, they cut all our 100-foot hoses at 50 feet. Well, how upset were we? We're used to 100-foot, 4-inch, yada, 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 LDH, and now they cut it. Well, now let's fast forward to 2025. We're doing progressive stretch. Well, now the firefighters can shoulder load 50 length. So if we have a marina fire, we have a long lay, or we have a train that went through and cut the grass on fire, we can take LDH downrange, do it the progressive stretch, Storts connection, add our gate and gauge at the end of that, and switch from 4-inch to 2.5, and our hydraulics are next to nothing. So that mistake ended up paying off in the long run.
I wonder if that's going to be true about my second born child.
No, you can't fix that.
You can't fix that.
You never know. You never know. Yeah.
You never know. Jimmy Davis, thoughts on this? This thing that Brent's talking about, or agree, disagree, or what do you do in Chicago when you're up there fighting polar bears and stuff like that, trying to fight fire in the North Pole?
The polar bears, that's only on weekends only.
Okay.
The benefit though is teaching with Brooksies. So I've gotten to do these drills in some of these evolutions. I think they're fantastic, but not everyone knows that. You only know what you know, and you're only going to do what you know, and you're only going to be doing what you've been taught. Another one, what we have the luxury of, we're just manpower rich. So if we have a very long stretch like that, and looking at Brooksy's video, we're just going to flood that in with X amount of people to get that line to its target. We have that luxury in doing so. Advantages.
Real quick, Jimmy, remind us of how many people Chicago shows up with on a working high-rise fire.
Well, if it's going to be a working high-rise fire, it's going to be over 100 guys. All right,
over
those are
100 firefighters.
position of working. that you're actually going to get your hands dirty with that. Then you have support roles, but that's a lot of people. So we're manpower rich, robust in manpower, and we can do a lot of things that other departments can't do. Those with lower manpower, man, I would suggest or explore things that you could do, not reinventing the wheel again, but something that will make your operation more efficient. Toronto and Chicago, FDNY, Clark, your department, we have the luxury.
Right.
But others
right,
don't have that. So that's why I said look for things that work for you in your department. And I always say with these hose bundles or your stretches, know your buildings. Know what your building stock is and know what your lengths of hose are going to be. But remember, most of your fires are going to be single family dwelling. So a lot of our bundles are going to suffice. But Clark, you talked about more complicated stretches in your big boxes, Brooksy with the high rises and mid rises. That's where creativity is going to have to come into play.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why personally, I believe that we have a very valuable podcast series because we have people from all over the United States, different size departments, and Canada, different size departments. And when I teach, I tell people, don't believe me. Don't just go to your chief and say, hey, we have to do this because I heard this guy from Las Vegas talk about this, and this is what they do in Las Vegas, so we should do this in Nebraska. I said, no. Take what you hear here from all these different experts and me, and take it back to your department and try it out. Try the progressive stretching. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Try what FDNY does. Try what Oakland does. All right, and give it a try. Give it a try, and if it works, if not, all right, we'll try plan B, plan C, plan D. Right? Dan Shaw, Chief of Operations, retired. Tell us about your plan B, plan C, plan D, engine company operations, complicated hose lays, any experiences you'd like to share?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all face that challenge, especially as you see population density go up. Housing, which they would build houses, which was unfavorable land. Now they build in favorable land. And I always use my organization's example when I am teaching is that, we became a paid fire department in the 40s, right? And so now you go from the 40s to where we are now, we're a 2,000 member organization. Well, you don't become that big because just for happenstance, it's because the population increases. So what was this bucolic rolling farms outside of Washington, D.C. now is 1.4 million people jammed in that space. And so, what you might have a 1 acre of land with a 2-story colonial now is 15 inward facing garden style apartments that setback is not 50 feet. It's now 450 feet or 500 feet. So no one cares that your engine's set up the same as it was in the 60s. It needs to reflect the building stock and what you have now. And it's about options, like Clark was just saying. I think that the two biggest misnomers that I always saw is we always put the burden to complete the longer stretch on the guys and girls who were wearing the PPE and the SCBA. So for us, like, we have a 400 off the back. We have a crosslay that's 200, another crosslay that's 250. And so routinely, the stretch would be you pull the 400-foot line and you're going to do another extension. It's all about options, right? The first line for a long line is always easy. It's the second and third line that becomes more complicated. And so we went away from the idea of the whole trunk line to a gated Y because that's not the intended purpose of a Y. It's not a smart device. It can't delineate the flows going off either side. So let's have one highly effective line, maybe a trunk line to a fluid reducer to 1 3/4. Use those high-rise bundles, which, they don't have a union contract. They can fight fire in any building you go to. We just call them high-rise bundles. But, also, we would explore the plan and practice. And, this is the idea is like you have to train on it. Hey, if we pull the 400 and we know it's going to probably come up a little short, then we can have our personnel stop. The driver can deploy the 150 off the front bumper, disconnect, reconnect, continue the stretch, because that guy or girl can move a lot swifter than the person who just ran across this yard to a courtyard with 400 feet on their hose and their shoulder. So it's about having options. And I think, the more we kind of evolve, the more we have more thoughtful conversations like we're having here. And you get beyond this whole, we've always done it this way. I mean, the gated Y is probably one that I just have a penchant against the use of that being 200, 300 feet away. That intended purpose would be on a pump panel. Pump panels had 2 discharges. So let's Genius device. We have 2 discharges. Let's invent a device that takes those 2 discharges or that 1 discharge and turns it into 2. So now we have 4. But then our infinite wisdom, we're like, I have a better idea. Let's put it 300 feet away and hope that it works. And then when you think about the more and more we learn about the complexity of the impact of stress and human performance, the minute you do that, you increase the complexity and the stress in the environment, right? Because now it's not one team that's coordinated with a pump operator; it's 2 teams relying upon that water. And now you have coordination of communication between those two different parties. Because if anyone disbelieves that like that device is not a smart device, go ahead and flow it to the appropriate pressure with both lines flowing, and don't tell the other team and shut down this line and see what happens. I hope they are very strong on this other line because they're going to take a beat down. But it's not just the hydraulics aspect. We can't discount that stress aspect. And the more appliances and things we throw into the mix, the more we increase that complexity. And that complexity stacking starts happening, where now we're trying to figure out why we're not successful in that stretch. Well, there's human stretchiness. If you don't train on it, you don't practice on it, you rely upon past antiquated ideas and expectations, sometimes we come up short. So it's always about having these conversations and exploring it. And like Brent did, like go out and do it. Like things sound great on theory, but go do it. See what the pump pressure is. I mean, the flow going through hose lines now is so much more laminar than it was 30, 40 years ago. It sounds silly, but water's slicker, right? I mean, we can do a lot more and get water longer distances without this preconceived notion that you can't go above this certain pump pressure.
Can I ask a question for Brooksy? Brooksy, when you were doing that long stretch, that 22 length stretch, I think you said it was?
Yeah.
And you said you could be out of contact with the pump operator. Do you set up a relay to communicate to that person with when to charge the line? How do you notify them when to charge the line? Because like in New York City, if we go into the subways, we have to set up people on different levels to make sure the radio communication. Because, I mean, I could see you being there 22 lengths ready to fight this fire and now having somebody have to run back that entire length to get to the pump or however far back to get to it. So what do you do about that?
So there's 2 answers to that. So one is where we've come up and we tell the driver we have a gate and gauge on it, and the gate and gauge is at the starting point. Send us 200 psi, and then we're going to work off that gate and gauge. In this case, exactly what you said is they went forward, laid it dry, put the gate and gauge closer to the nozzle, like 50 feet back, and then called for water. And the driver just sent 200 psi forward, and then they set their own pressure. So yeah, 2 different worlds. One, we're leapfrogging with water in the line, and one, we're leapfrogging dry. The dry line, just like you said, demands communications, and the wet line doesn't.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Captain Dugan. So at the FDNY, you run a truck company. Is it the truck company that locates the fire and estimates the stretch, or is it okay? Can you tell us how you operate at FDNY? Who estimates a stretch? And if you could drop some knowledge bombs on us about how you can effectively and efficiently estimate a stretch in an extremely complicated urban environment like New York.
First off, the engine company, what we call the control person or the condor, door and control together, they estimate the stretch. The thing that estimating the stretch is knowing your buildings, knowing your area. Is the elevator, do you have well holes? Or is it an elevator where the stairs loop around the elevator? Well, that's going to take the length every other floor. You have to know your buildings. You know, we had problem buildings. I had one in the Rutland houses where the hallways, they were interconnected New York City projects with the hallways on the 3rd, the 6th, and the 9th floor. And the apartments were either straight in and up, or in and down. So that was it was the way they built it for cheaper because they only had to put one hallway in. But the buildings, there were 4 different buildings interconnected. So you could walk through these buildings and you got a smoke condition. It was a huge problem. And you got a downward fire all the time. So you had to know where your outlets were in the building, what staircases had the standpipe outlets, what staircase didn't, what staircase went to the roof, what staircase didn't. We drilled on that probably at least once every 2 weeks. We went there and just, well, this is where we're going to go on drill today, and just go over this. And the junior men knew, if you had the can, you're walking down the hallways, there is a there's a piece of steel in the ceiling of the hallway every 25 feet. And we used to tell them, go down every time you hit that with your hook. If you carry it up correctly, you know we're another 25 feet in. You know where you're going. The doors were supposed to be marked so we could go up and down, know what the apartments were, but a lot of times they weren't. They painted over it without anything for us. So it's familiarity with your buildings, familiarity with your engine company and how it is laid out for the stretch, and then what you're going to do. Okay. We don't bring 1 3/4 on the stretch into a fireproof building. It's always only 2.5. And knowing how far you're going to go, the control man is going to estimate it depending on where the fire is. And if he's not sure, he's not going to break the line coming off the pumper until the guys tell them they're in position. Then he's going to break the line and bring it around and hook it up to the chauffeur. And then he's going to head off on it and start chasing the kinks as he goes through all of that.
Cap, could you, I know you're a truck guy and probably hurts your soul to talk about engine operations. Could you give us some of the factors that you take into account when you are estimating the stretch?
Absolutely. And very honestly, I mean, as a truck officer and a truck guy, I never put a fire out. So the engine has to be there to put the fire out. Okay. So you need to work together. And that is first and foremost. Okay. If I had my guys, and Bill used to talk about this all the time, if I saw one of my guys step past a hose line that was bound and not bend over and pick it up and bring some hose with him as he's going in, I would berate him, because you have to be part of the solution to put the fire out. You are going to estimate how far you are from the front door to where the engine is, how far you are from the front door to where the staircase is, the type of staircase. Okay. As you're pulling hose off, the control man's pulling hose off and he might be running into the building. He's going to get a look in there and see, okay, do I have well holes? If the fire's reported on the 4th floor, we're going to go up there. The other thing is, and this is very, very important, in we used to call them H-type buildings or O-types, but interconnected, front and rear wings. You never, ever, ever stretched until the location of the fire was 100% confirmed. I remember one Christmas Eve, we had a fire, and it was in like an H, but it was an I because it was sideways. So the front wing and then the back wing. Well, we got a report in the front wing on the top floor. We ran up there and went into the guy's apartment. There was a good smoke condition, but there was no fire. Well, it turned out the fire was in the opposite wing behind us on the top floor, but it was adjoining his apartment. So that's where we were getting the smoke from. So now I cheated, and I will admit that. We went up, over, and back down on the other side because my roof man was going up the rear staircase, and he said, Cap, I got the fire here. The apartment door is controlled. I said, okay. We went up over the roof, so we wouldn't have to go down 6 floors and back up 6 floors in the rear. We went over the roof because we knew the door was controlled. But you've got to communicate. The whole stretch is the communication. The engine chauffeur has to know, the control person has to know where they're going with that line. You know, if you're going the front one, that's not going to take a full length. The rear one's going to take a full length. Are the stairs wells? Can I go up to the 6th floor? Probably going to take 2 lengths to go up to the 6th floor. Okay, where am I going to go? And then how far away is it on the 6th floor? How many apartments are in that wing? How long is it? I mean, we had a couple where the stretch to get to the top floor rear apartment would be 12 to 13 lengths. So those are the buildings that scare you. And if you have a building in your response area, your district, that scares you, You should go there and practice. You should take all your new people there. You should spend time in that building. I just recently was up in the Massachusetts Fire Academy, and on December 4th, teaching up there. But on December 3rd, I was driving up, and I happened to be going right past Worcester, Massachusetts. And I got to see my friends from Worcester that we had taught with and everything else. I got to see Kevin. I got to see Mike McNamee. I got to see all these guys, Walter, Artie. I got to see all of them. But one of my heroes in the fire service is Mike McNamee. And he always said, if you have a building that scares you, if you don't spend your time drilling on that building, shame on you. And that's what I truly believe. So you have to drill on it, you have to practice it, and you have to know what the building is giving you. How are you going to be able to stretch? And on some of these stretches, a lot of places I see, they go right to the floor below, go into an apartment and throw the bleach bottle out the window with the 75 feet, and we're going up through the apartment on the floor below to put that fire out. So you have to know your buildings. You have to know where you're going, Clark. You have to know what you are, plan your response area.
Yeah, perfect, Cap. I completely agree, and I'm sure everyone here has seen some pretty wonky stuff, right? You've been in your buildings and looked and thought, oh man. And I can't remember the gentleman's name, Captain Dugan, but he was an inspector at Worcester, and he looked at that building. And I think this was maybe 8 to 10 years before the fire. And he had a quote, and it was in the report, and said, Jesus, we'd better never get a fire in this building. That's what he said. So he was in that building and understood. So, Captain Dugan, no pre-connects on FDNY engines?
There's only the only pre-connect is in the front bumper. We call it the trash line, the car fire line, the rubbish fire line.
Right.
But it's usually 2 lengths of 1 3/4 hose that the engine pulls up for, non-structural fires. Now, I have seen good ECCs pull that off as they're pumping for the fire, because the fire is lapping out a window and endangering somebody on the floor above at a window or a rescue, and they will put up a water, almost like a water curtain, just to above the window, not in the window because we got the brothers going in there, but above the window to protect the people on the floor above or 2 floors above from that fire. I have seen guys do that for building fires, but we never ever stretch that inside a building.
Okay, perfect. Daryl Liggins, Oakland. I understand that you don't have pre-connects in Oakland either, do you?
One more thing, Daryl. What kind of hose did you have with you?
Oh yeah. What was that?
Oh yeah, this wonderful key hose that we were playing with here at the Scottsdale Fire Training Center.
Nice.
This is the combat ready. If you're using 15, I love it. It's like, this is their top product. It's extruded through the weave. It really works well with like a 15/16. My personal favorite is their sniper, because I'm more of a 7/8 guy. I can't handle the 15/16 flow, which is a little smaller. But yeah, thanks to our guys at Key Hose. It is wonderful stuff. If you ever want to try it, reach out to one of your distributors or reps and ask them to try it. They'll send out a sample and you could give it a try. Test for yourself. But as far as where I worked in a couple of departments, and no, Oakland has pre-connects and dead load. A dead load terminology being just a static bed of hose that's not connected. And Jay Camella and I implemented that into the city because it was only pre-connects when we started, and we had a incident. We had negative incidents with the gated Y, hence Dennis and I working on getting rid of the Ys, and that really took a foothold in the fire service. So I could not agree more with Dan Shaw that could make things really messy. We had a apartment fire that was like 600-foot stretch. It was and we didn't train for that. What Brent was talking about that progressive lay, it could have worked out very wonderful, but we weren't set up for that. And it ended up with a gated Y and multiple packs and shutoffs. And so to simplify things, we put it on a bed of hose. And I was a zealot about it. I love a dead load, and people that know me know I think pre-connects could make things really messy. They can have success in so many situations. People over rely on them, where then when it comes to adapting for a longer stretch, we're doing things like gated Ys or adding packs and incorrect pump pressures. So I would stretch a dead load for 100 feet to 500 feet and everything in between. And it made things so simple. My pump operator is hooking up to the same outlet. He was pulling the same handle. He's reading the same gauge, and everybody knew the play. The only thing that was changing was the distance. And I'll share a quick story, and then I'm going to show a picture that would support some truck operations. And I've said this in presentations. And Jimmy knows I had a presentation called The Paradox of Choice, and Dan talked about all of these choices. When people are faced with too many choices under stress and time compression, things you just fall into an automatic habit. We don't really make decisions. We just react under stress. And Dr. Gary Klein rode with the Chicago Fire Department to study how firefighters respond under stressful conditions. So we go to a medical call, and it was on a second floor apartment, and I had actually it was a third floor apartment, and we walk out of the apartment, down the hallway, down the stairs, down the driveway to the rig, and I'm kind of counting my steps to see how many feet of hose we would need. And we load up the patient. It wasn't a serious call, abdominal pain or something like that. And I asked the probationary firefighter, "Hey, can you do me a favor? This is what we're going to do. We're going to do a drill. I want you to stretch a line to the apartment we were just at." So he grabs the 200-foot pre-connect. I knew he was short already because I had already estimated this in my head. And we get up, and we're about 10 feet short of the apartment. I said, "Okay, what are you going to do now?" It's like, "Well, we're going to add a hose pack." Okay, so now we're going to add a 100-foot pack because our 1 3/4 pack is 100 feet, where we only need 10 feet to get to the door and 50 for the apartment. Well, now we're going to have too much hose in here. And how much time is that going to take? This fire is not going to slow down. It's going to keep auto exposing. People are trapped. They have less time without air. Searches are delayed. This whole thing is spiraling out of control. And it's too widely accepted to just extend a line if you come up short, that we're just going to fix coming up short. Our job is to get hose to the door, and there should be no error. So we get in the rig, we drive to another apartment. I talked to the manager and said, "Hey, we're going to do a quick drill." And I look at the building. He never comes in. And I said, "I want you to stretch a line to apartment 322, but use the dead load." So he grabs the dead load. Of course, we get in there and help. Goes up, drops his 50-foot bundle out the door of apartment 322. And now I ask the question the opposite way. How many feet of hose do we have out? Is it 200, 250s? I don't know. That's the point. You did your job, and you didn't have to misestimate or choose a pre-connected line where you may overstretch, understretch. For most of us, we don't have the FDNY staffing for anybody to go check where the stairs are. Do we have a well hole? How's the hallway looking? You're getting off the rig, and you're reacting, and you're pulling hose and going. And normally it's just going to be a pre-connect, and then we're trying to fix an issue. I'm going to pull up a photo here. Let me see if I could do this. And here's another advantage. I really think this picture will show.
This is where Daryl crashes the
estimate,
website, and we all get kicked off.
Yeah. Yeah, so the estimating the stretch, I find we're a forward lay department. I do like back stretches, but the forward lay um, is where you really we don't have to estimate as much when we're using a dead load because we're just pulling hose until we get to where we go. In the FDNY, they're pulling the hose off and then they're driving forward down the block, and that could be some distance. So you have to have the amount of hose in front of the building. So it's almost like choosing a pre-connect. Pull 200 off, pull 250 off, pull 300 off. But this was a job I was on. Is if you take a look at where the engine is, this is spotting for the habit of a pre-connected line. And we're really blocking out the aerials. You can end up with a lot of people at windows and such where you need to focus on the rescues. So one thing we can do is to move that engine right on arrival to that hydrant, that on the right-hand side, and backstretch. And now we have the front of the building for the trucks. Okay, there's that saying, we can stretch hose, we can't stretch ladders, but we still fall into this habit because we're used to pre-connected lines, and pre-connects will always just put you in front of the building. So once you get a dead load, you find out, oh, I could put this engine anywhere I want and then stretch hose to where you were. So that's something I want people to really just give it a try. Think about it. It can work for suburbs to urban departments, and I think it keeps things much more simple and makes things less complicated and increases your likelihood of making a stretch that's the proper amount of hose to your target.
Daryl, I love when you said, you asked the guy, you asked the young fireman, estimate the stretch or give me a hose stretch. Very, very valuable drill. When I used to work in the high-rise area on Las Vegas Boulevard, every medical call we went on in the hotels, I treated it like a high-rise fire. And my guys knew, my firefighters knew, I'm going to ask you to estimate the stretch on every single EMS call. As soon as we step off the elevator, I say, that's our standpipe. All right, I need you to count paces. And I tell the other firefighter, I need you to count doors. Tell me what side of the hall and how many doors down the hallway it is. And what I realized, that it gets these firefighters thinking now. Every single EMS call, 2:00 in the morning, when you're drudging down the hall, just going to another drunk guy, pain in the ass medical call that no one wants to be on. Even then, they're paying attention and they're estimating stretches. And that's how I got our firefighters to think about stretching hose every single call we went on. Very, very valuable drill. It costs you nothing and it doesn't take any time, does it?
Yeah. So I'll say this. If somebody's at the rig and they are looking at the building to say how much hose they think you need to get to whatever apartment or throughout a house, that answer should be something they bet their life on. We need to know, because we're betting somebody's life possibly on having enough to make it through that area and not delay the process. So what I found when we started stretching this dead load all the time, and we just used it for everything. I thought it was easy. I would be estimating at the door. So if I was in East Oakland where there's just bungalows, 50 feet at the door is going to be plenty. That's going to get me through all these tiny little places. But if I was in the Fruitvale and we have a lot of 3-story, Victorian houses, and I want that line to be able to reach all the way up through, to the 3rd floor. Well, now I'm going to have 100 feet available at the front. Or maybe it's a deeper lot, or this huge house I'm staying in Scottsdale right now. This thing is like, I don't know, 9,000 square foot home. You have to think about how much hose I need at the front door. And I can't estimate that necessarily from the rig because of smoke and trees and things that are obscuring. So yeah, you're still making an estimate, but I'm doing it closer to, that drop point where I'm masking up and thinking of how much hose I need to get through the place.
Perfect. And when you say what are you calling your load, Daryl? What bulk load or
a dead load? Yeah. Some people will call it a static bed or a bulk bed.
Okay.
I don't know. Anybody else calling it on this panel anything else?
How exactly do you load that? Is that just a flat load? Is it a horseshoe load? Is it do you have loops?
I wish my photos were coming through, but yeah, ours is pretty much just like the FDNY. It's a flat load with a reverse horseshoe finish, 50 feet finish, and we do the 2 1/4 and the 1 3/4 bed identical. So again, that whole paradox of choice. I want everything to be I don't want one stretch from this length and a different load for just because the hose is different diameter. We keep that load exactly the same. I had the fortune to write our engine kind of step-by-step ops for the Fire Academy. And one thing I had noticed then was, okay, firefighter 1 will step back and turn and right arm through. And we've all seen those types of steps. And then I was like, okay, for the 300 footer, that's on a rear and it's loaded differently. So there was different steps. Okay, now you're going to step onto the tailboard and do this. And then for a gated Y operation, it's entirely different. And then it just occurred to me, why is it that fire departments are so okay with having a completely different operation and method to stretch hose just because the line's 50 feet farther from the rig? We're going to do this for 200 feet. And if it's 250, we're going to do something totally different. And then if it's 300, we're going to go to a different part of the rig and do something different. Where having these static beds like the FDNY is set up, it's go to the freezer, get the box, and just it's the same thing. It really makes things really simple, which increases speed and
Absolutely.
It makes things very predictable.
Yeah, absolutely. Jimmy Davis, Chicago hose loads. What do you something similar, or you have doing something different?
Daryl must have been reading the pages from my notes or my book. We do the same thing. We have a static bed or a dead load. And it's also finished with, we do 3 horseshoes at 75 feet. And the reason why we do that is 75 feet because our lots or the frontage of homes is about 25 feet. Usually the engine will pull down 3 houses. All right, that gives me 75 feet, so I know I need 1 shoe. So everything is kind of like calculated in distance. So we have 3 finished horseshoes up there. It goes into a 1 1/4 shutoff pipe. All right, and then 100 feet. And I wish I had a picture of this. 100 feet of 1 3/4 after that. So it gives us 2 options. We can go big water with that 2.5, or we can go with that 7/8 or that 150/50. Off the back. That's 100 foot. And that's off the rear end. We have pre-connects too. I can't really use them where I'm at. There's a fitting situation for it. But a lot of my buildings, again, knowing your buildings, they're all walk up. My all MDs. So we're going up vertical. We're doing the stairs. We're doing a well. We're doing a rope drop. So it's either or.
Okay. Thank you, Jimmy Davis. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Brent Brooks. You said that on that gigantic 22 section hose loads you did, you said you take the whole bed and you dump it on the ground and everybody picks up a coupling.
And they break the coupling and they rapid deploy it on their shoulder and they go. Because if we do that, those firefighters that are faster than the other firefighter, they're going to start that stretch. And that's going to allow that firefighter to drop their glove or may not be as proficient as the A team. It's going to allow them to catch up. And what I like about that stretch is every single firefighter following that hose gets to dress it up. So the hose gets dressed up 22 times on a 22 length stretch. And the other thing I wanted, when we start talking high rise, when we estimate our stretch for high rise, day 1 of our recruit class, we make the recruits walk at their cadence a 50-foot stick of hose. They walk it 3 times and they get a number. My cadence is 15. So when I get off the elevator, and I hit that standpipe from 2 floors below, I start to count my steps. Every time I walk 15 steps, it's a thumb. Another 15, it's a finger. Another 15, it's a finger. When I get to my target, 3 lengths, make it happen, or 4 lengths or 5 lengths. So know your cadence for high-rise operations. You'll never come up short.
That's perfect. And we do something similar, Brent, is an adult stride. A normal adult stride is approximately 3 feet. That's 3 US feet, Brent. I don't know what the Canadian is. But approximately 3 feet. And that's when I talked about doing our drills, walking down the hallways. Count, I get to the end. All right. It's 50 strides. Okay. 50 strides times 3. Help me with the math here. 150 feet. Add 50 for the floor below. Add 50 because we're going into the apartment door. Okay. Perfect. But yeah, whatever works for you. But it is imperative that we know how much hose we need. Right. Chief Shaw, closing thoughts?
Yeah, man. I think obviously we were just screaming the surface on this. We could talk about this for days because we're all passionate about engine company operations. Or in Mike's case, like you reap the benefits of an effective engine company when you're on a truck. And I think the idea for anyone who rides an engine and today is that you challenge every conventional idea, and you challenge it because crosslays is a perfect example. Crosslays were instituted for convenience, but convenience turns into complacency because we assume every single fire is going to be within the stretch of that pre-connected hose line on your apparatus. So, always challenging the conventional pressure test. Pressure test them every single day to see if they still work. And then when you look at your building stock, you look at the changing environment in which we have to deal with, where we're talking about the fires, we're talking about the buildings, we're talking about the people. We should be challenged every single day, which then should be the motivation for why we go and train. You train every single one of those ideas because you can whiteboard it to your blue in the face. That's great in theory, but then you got to try it in practice. So there should never be any shortage of opportunities to go train, even with the small amount of what we talk about engine company operations today, because every person on that rig has a responsibility, whether it's understanding nozzle reaction, understanding estimating stretch, understanding a nozzle inspection, how to overcome obstacles or obstructions in your nozzle. All those things are just drills that will turn into greater and greater things that get us closer and closer to mastery.
Yep. I think the only thing that boosts morale more than a working fire is a good drill where people learn and they win. They accomplish the task, and that is high fives all the way around. That's us going to the service station and me buying drinks for everybody if we have a good drill outcome like that. Captain Dugan, closing thoughts. Birthday boy.
Yeah, I just want to go a little off subject on this today because the holidays, a lot of people have a tough time mentally in the holidays and thinking about everything going on and everything else. I just want every one of our brothers and sisters out there to know that there are people out there who care, and that if you're having a tough time, reach out because people are there to help you. And remember, the suicide prevention number is 988, and the world is better with all of us in it. So stick around and be here and do the right thing.
Yep. I can't agree with you more. That's probably the most important thing we said all podcasts today, Captain Dugan. Holidays are here. I hope everybody enjoys your holidays. I hope everyone has a safe holiday. You spend time with family and friends. Whatever you celebrate, it's an important time. Appreciate what we have. Think about who came before us. Think about the sacrifices they made. Think about the seeds that they planted, which we now enjoy the shade from the trees. Family, friends, fire service mentors, and heroes. Let's not forget about all them. And thank you very much for listening. All right. Again, if you have any comments, please feel free to reach out to any single one of us. We are always available. We're not a bunch of superstars here. If you're listening to the podcast, we are the same as you. If you are listening to the podcast trying to improve yourselves, we are the same. Don't ever hesitate to reach out to any of us and let us know what you have to say. Again, thank you to Key Hose and Daryl and the Witness Protection Program. That Key Hose for our sponsorship. So next month, potentially talking about setting up your engine for success. All right, we'll talk about that. Have some good ideas. Any specific questions, hit us up. So again, thank you very much, and we will see you next month.